Think about this for a second. If a nuclear attack were launched against the United States, the president wouldn't run to a bunker. He'd run to an airplane, a flying fortress armed with the world's most advanced communication systems, defenses, and enough power to command a superpower while soaring above the clouds. But here's the wild part. This tradition didn't start with a giant 747. It began with a small modified transport plane during World War II. Our journey begins with Franklin D. Roosevelt. Before him, presidents traveled by train or ship, slower, less secure, and often impractical during wartime. But by 1945, aviation was becoming essential. Enter the Douglas C-54 Skymaster, nicknamed the Sacred Cow. This wasn't just another plane. It was specially modified for Roosevelt. It had a hydraulic lift for his wheelchair, making it one of the first presidential aircraft designed with accessibility in mind. It carried bulletproof windows, a private stateroom, and even a small conference table where Roosevelt met with advisors. For the first time, the president could lead the country while flying thousands of feet in the air. This was the birth of what we now know as Air Force One. When Harry Truman took over, he didn't just keep Roosevelt's plane. He wanted one that reflected his own identity. Enter the VC-118 Independence, a military version of the Douglas DC-6. Painted with a bald eagle design on its nose, the plane was both patriotic and presidential. Inside, it had a working galley, a press area, and more comfortable accommodations. This was the first true attempt to combine function with symbolism, projecting American strength wherever the president traveled. Fun fact, Truman actually signed the National Security Act of 1947 on board this aircraft, creating the CIA, the Department of Defense, and the modern U.S. military structure, all at 30,000 feet. That makes the Independence one of the most historically significant aircraft in American history. Next came Dwight D. Eisenhower, the general turned president. Eisenhower favored the sleek Lockheed Constellations called Columbine II and Columbine III, named after the state flower of his wife's home state, Colorado. These planes were faster and more stylish, often called the most beautiful airliners ever built, but they're remembered for something bigger. In 1953, while Eisenhower was airborne, his aircraft shared the same flight number as a commercial airline. Air traffic controllers got confused, leading to a dangerous near collision. The solution? A permanent, unique call sign, Air Force One. From that moment on, whenever the president is aboard, that plane, no matter the model, is Air Force One. This wasn't just a safety measure, it was branding. The world now knew the skies had a plane reserved for only one man, the U.S. president. The jet age was here, and John F. Kennedy made sure the presidency embraced it. His new ride was the VC-137C Boeing 707, tail number SAM 260,000. But here's where things get legendary. Kennedy hired famed designer Raymond Loewy to redesign the livery. Out went the military olive green, in came the polished blue and white look with United States of America boldly across the fuselage and the American flag on the tail. This wasn't just a plane, it was a flying symbol of democracy, instantly recognizable around the globe. Tragically, SAM 260,000 became part of history on November 22, 1963. After Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, his body was flown back to Washington on that very plane. And in a moment burned into history, Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as president aboard it, standing beside Jackie Kennedy in her blood-stained suit. Air Force One had become more than a plane, it had become a stage where history itself unfolded. From Johnson through Carter, the Boeing 707s, SAM 260,000 and later SAM 27,000 remained the workhorses. Johnson used them for global diplomacy and Nixon used SAM 27,000 during his presidency. And who could forget Nixon's famous farewell in 1974? Standing at the top of the Air Force One stairs, flashing his V for victory sign before resigning the presidency. That moment defined an era of American politics, and it happened with Air Force One as the backdrop. These 707s flew Ford and Carter too, but by the late 1970s, the world was changing. The jet wasn't big enough, secure enough, or advanced enough for the demands of the Cold War presidency. Ronald Reagan recognized the need for something bigger. In the 1980s, he ordered the construction of two new presidential planes, the VC-25A, based on the Boeing 747-200B. Why the 747? Because it was enormous, reliable, and had the range to fly nearly anywhere in the world without stopping. These planes were fitted with cutting-edge communication systems, hardened against nuclear blasts, and designed to serve as a mobile White House. They were so advanced that even today, more than 30 years later, they're still in service. George H.W. Bush was the first to officially fly on the VC-25A in 1990. Tail numbers 28,000 and 29,000 became the pride of the presidential fleet. Inside, they carried a presidential suite, medical facilities, a full kitchen capable of feeding 100 people, and secure communication systems linking directly to the Pentagon and Air Force Command. One of Bush's most famous flights was in 1992, when he used Air Force One to fly into Somalia to visit U.S. troops during Operation Restore Hope, demonstrating not only American presence, but also presidential courage. Bill Clinton used the VC-25As heavily for international diplomacy. His trips to China, Africa, and the Middle East showcased Air Force One as a global symbol of American influence. George W. Bush experienced the plane in its most critical role. On September 11, 2001, when the Twin Towers were attacked, Bush was rushed onto Air Force One. For much of that day, the aircraft acted as the secure airborne command post of the United States. Military jets escorted it, and the president directed the response while airborne. Barack Obama's years turned Air Force One into a pop culture phenomenon. Whether in Hollywood films, TV shows, or newsreels, the image of Obama stepping off Air Force One became a powerful reminder of America's leadership. Donald Trump continued using the VC-25As, but pushed forward the project for their replacements. The VC-25B, based on the Boeing 747-8I, originally scheduled to enter service mid-2020s, delays and cost overruns now push the timeline closer to 2030. Joe Biden currently uses the aging VC-25As. But the world is eagerly waiting for the new generation, the most advanced presidential aircraft ever built. So what will the future look like? The VC-25B will be larger, more fuel efficient, and packed with 21st century technology. It will have updated defenses, improved cybersecurity, and the ability to stay airborne longer. It's not just a replacement, it's a complete reimagining of what a presidential aircraft should be in the modern age. From Roosevelt's humble C-54 to Kennedy's elegant 707 to the 747s that still rule the skies today, Air Force One has always been more than just an airplane. It's a flying White House, a command center, and a symbol of American power seen across the globe. But here's the question for you. Which version of Air Force One do you think was the most iconic? The sacred cow of Roosevelt, Kennedy's SAM 26,000, or the mighty 747s that still fly today? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey through history, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories of aviation, history, and power.